Good morning and welcome to Wisconsin Wednesdays. My name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors. I'm joined by the entire crew at WREA, Diane, Annalise, and Lori. Thank you for joining us today. We've got some conversations coming up about the true cost of a cancer, heart attack, or stroke situation. But before that, just want to do a couple of housekeeping details. All participants are in a listen-only mode. And what that means is we can't see you, we can't hear you. However, if you have a question, drop it into chat and we'll periodically stop throughout the conversation and answer that question. Or at the end, what we'll do is we'll stop recording. You can hold up your hand on your reaction bar and we can unmute you and you can ask the question live. That way, if you don't feel comfortable in chatting that way as well. You'll notice down there at the bottom, there's a QR code, and you can use that QR code by opening up your camera feature on your smartphone, hovering over that, and you can ask questions that way. I'll show you a little bit more about that form here at the end of the conversation today. And just like all of our webinars, we record these. We put them out on the WREA website. They're archived out there so that you can follow up, watch them again, share them with your friends, family, things like that. But Diane, it's getting to be busy season. So tell me a little bit about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks up there.
Sure. Well, just as everybody knows, if you remember, we have our spring district meeting at the Osthoff Resort on April 27th, a couple of weeks away. And we have a great lineup on the agenda, from time to meet with your district to hearing speakers, to updates on WREA and some fun activities. So we hope if you haven't registered yet, please do. You can go to our website, look under the events tab, and then scroll down and you'll find the registration for that. Upcoming also this fall, we have our annual convention at the Ingleside Hotel in Waukesha or Pewaukee, depending on what you're looking at. It'll be September 27th and 28th. And again, we have a full slate of great information and fun activities for the convention. We also will be doing a lot of work on getting the vote out, getting people ready to go vote this fall. So it'll be very, very important that you do that. A couple of other things I just want to mention that are going to be upcoming to watch for. We're currently doing a strategic plan for WREA, and we are going to be putting a survey out to the members to get their input on where they believe that WREA should go in the next 5 years or so. So when that comes out, please take time, get us your thoughts, get us your ideas so we can incorporate those. Also later summer, we are going to be putting out a legislative survey with a new biennium coming up next year. We want input from people as to what our focus area should be for the legislative session. So watch for those. They'll be on the website. There'll be announcements in our publications, etc. So we hope that you will participate. Let us hear your voices. You're the strength of WREA, so we do want to hear from you. So welcome and happy Easter, everybody.
Thank you, Diane. Appreciate that. Looking forward to seeing everyone at the convention in September. And then how many folks are signed up for the Osthoff district meeting?
We had 111 as of yesterday. I'm not sure. Lori, did any more come in?
No.
Okay.
111 is going to be a great group then. So outstanding. So thank you very much. Appreciate you, ladies. Appreciate you as always keeping your members up to date on what's going on. Again, I cannot stress enough. Go out and check out the WREA website. All the latest activities underneath the community calendar of what's going on. Lots of things for you as well. So thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us this morning. Just a quick reminder, my name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors. I live a little bit north of Houston, and I live with my wife, who is a second grade elementary school teacher in the same school that that all of my kids went to, that she went to as well. And I've spent the better part of my career working with active educators to help them understand what their retirement years look like, so that they can know what's out there, what's available to them, and then be prepared for that. So we want to talk about a lot of those things today. My co-host, usually on the call today, but she is in a meeting right now, is MJ Woodall. She is the leader for AMBA in Wisconsin, and she's very active in her community up there. Her sons both work for AMBA as well, so you may see them or talk to them on the phone as well. So as Diane mentioned, for the fall conference, getting out the vote, helping support those candidates who support WREA. That's big part of what WREA does. They're there as a pension watchdog, looking out for your benefits that you earned throughout your career, preserving those benefits. All these conferences now back in person, face to face, connecting you to your other fellow retirees as well. And as well as getting those new retirees coming out of school here in the next few years, getting them involved in WREA. And then WREA also provides discounts, benefits, exclusive things you can't get anywhere unless you're a member of WREA. So it's important. That's the reason why that WREA and Amber are together as well. We can help fill those gaps that may not be covered by your benefits, whether they came from the state, from the district, from a spouse, something like that. They're portable. If you happen to snowbird down in the South or you leave the state, they're not tied into any network or anything like that. You can take them wherever you want to. And WREA members can extend their benefits that they have access to their family member for whatever reason, whether it's their child aged out of their benefits or whether it's a parent or something like that. So that may prevent you, even if you have a second career, of having to take off extra time to take care of a loved one, something like that. Today, we're going to talk about cancer, heart, and stroke plan that WREA endorses, but we're going to do this in the context of what are the numbers? What's the real situation out there? What's covered and not covered by Medicare or by private insurance if you have a heart attack, a stroke, or a cancer diagnosis, and to help you make the most of your endorsed options. And I want you to think back on your career. I can imagine you probably know of someone in your school that you worked with or someone in your family that had a cancer diagnosis while you were at work. I think about my wife who's a teacher, and there are a couple of ladies in her school, small school of about 40 teachers, that have had cancer diagnoses and some reoccurrences of cancer, and how that impacted them, how it impacted their career. So I imagine all of us have had someone in our family, it may have been us, that has been touched by cancer. And really, we're talking about this today because of the top 3 health-related issues that we all go through as Americans. Heart disease, including heart attack and stroke, and cancer are 2 of those top 3 health-related issues. And 2/3 of individuals who have bankruptcies are as a result of medical expenses being the primary issue. Even though we're insured significantly as a country, as individuals, those expenses still can add up even with insurance. And because we're living longer, we've got to prepare for many, many more years of our life when those health issues seem to stack up as we go forward. And so being prepared, understanding what our potential is out there, and then making steps to take advantage of the opportunities or the programs and endorsements that WREA has out there for you are very important. When it comes to cancer, 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer sometime in their lifetime. And what that means for all of us, like I mentioned, you probably know someone, somebody in your family, it may be even yourself, that has had a cancer diagnosis. For men, it's usually prostate cancer. For women, breast cancer is overwhelmingly the larger amount. Depending upon where you live, there may be different types of cancers. I live down here in Houston. I don't live close to the chemical plants and the refineries, but they have different type of cancer hotspots over there as well. So you see these facts from the American Cancer Society. It doesn't change the fact that a significant number of us are going to be diagnosed with cancer sometime in our lifetime. When it comes to heart attacks, there are over 800,000 heart attacks a year, and that costs, insurance cost, out-of-pocket cost, over $700,000 is the average cost of a heart attack. And a stroke, while it's not necessarily the leading cause of death, it's in the top 5, it's the #1 cause for disability. And we'll talk about the cost related to that, because when you have a stroke, depending upon the age that you have your stroke and how quickly it's you receive medical attention, after you get discharged from the hospital, it's usually a $17,000 plus a year bill just for the medications and for some of those rehabilitation services. And every year, less and less of those services are covered by Medicare. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as a moment as well. So when it comes back to cancer again, we think about, well, I've got good Medicare coverage, or I've got good health insurance. Back in 2018, the last year that the American Cancer Society did a study, they found out that even with insurance, as Americans, we pay over $5.5 billion out of our pocket for cancer treatment and cancer care. And that's grown significantly over the past several years. Yesterday, the inflation numbers came out, and I think inflation's over 8.5%. What they're recognizing, medical inflation is rolling right along with that. So I imagine the numbers will go up. But we think about it, we have insurance, but there's still a significant dollar amount coming out of our pocket for cancer. And we think, well, if I've got coverage, if I've got health insurance through work or through spouse or my retiree coverage or Medicare, won't they pay for everything? Well, there's good news and bad news to that coin. Good news is many of the networks today have low copays, and there's a wide variety of plans out there. When I say plans, a wide variety of treatment options out there. So we're living longer. Those networks give us greater opportunity and greater access to different treatments, things like that. And so we're living longer because we're diagnosing it earlier. We're getting better treatment on the back end. The challenge becomes once you get diagnosed and you start your treatment process, the little co-insurance clauses, the deductibles, certain specialists may not take certain coverages. They may be out of network, or they may not be in your Medicare Advantage plan. They may not be in a Medicare plan. And then you get into the different costs that aren't covered. Transportation costs. If you're working another job after you retired, there may be some loss of income because of running out of paid time off, things like that. Then you get into situations to where what I would consider standard operating procedure, so to speak, in a cancer treatment, but these things usually aren't covered by Medicare, nor are they covered by insurance plans. Your anti-nausea medications, your wigs, your prosthesis, things like that. And then if you're responsible for any care of anyone else, then you have to take off away from them. That child care, that elder care is not covered. And then the misconception of stroke, heart attack, and cancer is that at-home recovery or long-term care recovery is covered by Medicare or health insurance. And it's not, unfortunately. We're going to talk about that some more as we go through here. Most of the folks on the call today probably have a combination of a supplement plan, their Medicare, or they're not yet eligible and they'll soon be eligible for Medicare. So people ask, well, once they get on Medicare, isn't everything covered? One thing about Medicare is you've got to watch out for the qualifying language. And if you have insomnia and you're looking for some way to go to sleep, I'd encourage you to read this brochure, Medicare Coverage of Cancer Treatment Services by Medicare. It's multi-pages. It'll put you to sleep, but it is very specific about how nebulous they are with their qualifying language. I'll come back and touch on Part A, but some of the other things you'll see in this are words like some and if, and Part B, many chemotherapy drugs are covered, or some chemotherapy treatments. So they put in their qualifying language, instead of saying all or is covered, they'll say some or many or if, things like that. Then you have this issue with inpatient stay versus observation status. And every year Medicare looks to keep their costs under control. So what they will do, instead of cutting reimbursement rates, which they do, but the biggest thing that they'll do is they'll take procedures that used to be inpatient procedures and reclassify them as observation status procedures. It doesn't change the type of procedure that's done. So let's just think in the instance from a cancer situation. Say there is a breast cancer surgery where you're removing something that could be a mastectomy, a lumpectomy, something of that nature. In the past, Medicare might have covered that as an inpatient stay, and you stay at least 3 nights in the hospital, you get all your treatment. They changed that to an observation status code. What that means is nothing in terms of how your surgery goes, in terms of how your hospital treatment is, in terms of anything out of that type of situation. What changes is what you're eligible for after you're discharged from the hospital. If you have an inpatient stay of at least 3 nights and you're discharged from the hospital and you need some form of rehabilitation, there's some coverage for that, some limited coverage. If you're discharged from the hospital and your procedure is now observation status, but you need rehabilitation services, there is no coverage for that. So that's a way that Medicare gets around for paying those things with that qualifying language, inpatient stay versus observation status, things like that. Medicare does not cover in any situation, regardless of whether it's a heart attack, cancer, stroke, anything like that. They don't cover room and board in assisted living facilities or adult daycares. They don't cover long-term nursing home care, meaning that after 100 days, they don't cover anything at all, regardless of your situation. And then a lot of times they don't cover some of the supplements, the food and the nutrition issues, and certain services like bathing and eating that don't require skilled care. So again, from that perspective, there are some situations that Medicare doesn't cover and doesn't provide for. So you kind of need to understand and prepare for that. And then even if you've got a doctor that is in or accepts Medicare, they may still have maximum payments for certain types of services or no coverage for certain types of services. Even if your doctor says, I think you need this type of service, they may or may not cover that. You may be responsible for all that cost. And this really comes into, from a cancer perspective, if it's an experimental treatment, or you need to go to Cancer Centers of America, some places that don't necessarily accept Medicare, but your doctor says, I think you can get your best care there, that type of thing. So Medicare, again, has some limitations, again, to keep their costs at a certain level overall. The bottom line is, whether we have private insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever it is, everyone pays. And it's usually because of what we call surprise billing or balance billing. You could be going to a Medicare facility or to someone that's in your network on private insurance, but they may be an anesthesiologist or somebody that reads your MRI or your scan that's out of network, and you get a bill on top of. Or in the case of a heart attack or a stroke, you may be transported to the hospital in a ground ambulance or an air ambulance, and those are not part of any network. And so you may get a surprise bill on top of that. And I showed you that 5.6 billion on top of what people pay outside of insurance. Again, these surprise bills can jump up and get us when it comes to that. Things you don't think about. We think about the medical care, the surgery, the immediate chemotherapy following, that type of thing. Things that aren't covered by any plan, whether it's Medicare, insurance, or anything like that. Transportation, whether it's just mileage driving to and from the hospital or to the facility to receive your chemotherapy. Again, I live in Houston. We have some phenomenal medical centers down here. Cancer centers, MD Anderson, one of the best in the world. I meet people flying back to Houston from all over the country, some from all over the world, that are paying their own nickel to fly to get treatment. And so I know that cost is not inexpensive and it's not covered. The lodging surrounding the medical center, because you have to live a certain or stay a certain distance proximity that you can get in if they need to treat you quicker or something like that, if you have a bad reaction, the lodging cost on top of that. Then we talk about lost wages or income. That lost wage may not be you in terms of because you're already retired and receiving a pension. It may be your son or daughter who has to take off work to go with you to get your treatment, things like that. And then we talked about some of those secondary effects, dietary changes, wigs, anti-nausea medication, things like that, as well as caregiving costs. If you're responsible for the care of someone else or someone's responsible for the care of you, there may be some costs that are associated to that. And those things are things that we may not think about, but it really all adds up in the end. All of these things add up to, from a cancer perspective, even more so on a stroke, maybe less on a heart attack, depending upon what your recovery time is. About 60% of the costs related to a cancer diagnosis and treatment subsequently are not covered in any type of healthcare plan, whether it's Medicare, private payer insurance, Medicaid, whatever it is. And so those things start to add up. So at AMBA and WREA, what we try to do is to make sure you have options. And I want to share with you a quick testimony from a friend of mine who lives down here in Texas. He is a retired state employee, currently working for the Texas Public Employees Association. Ray Mel had cancer, going on 8-9 years ago, given about a 50-50 chance of living. He did survive that, came through with great support from his friends and things like that, had very good retiree health care plan. But what he found out was, as he went through all the post-surgery treatments, the co-insurance clauses, the scan costs, or the copays for every scan that he had to have after that started adding up. Then his wife transporting him to and from Austin to Houston to get his treatments down there. Those type of things added up. And then he had a consulting operation after he retired from the state. Many of you may sub, you may do other things outside. He lost income as well. So his recommendation, if you have a family history of cancer, even if you don't, is to look into some form of cancer plan, and WREA and AMBA together have an option for you where you can receive anywhere from $5,000 to $75,000 cash right upon cancer diagnosis to use the money any way that you want to. You can have this payment made directly to the provider, meaning your doctor, your hospital provider, that type of thing, or you can take the cash and use it any way you want to. You can get coverage on yourself, coverage on a spouse, an entire family. It's guaranteed renewable for life. It has no impact on any other insurance that you have. There's no coordination of benefits. It allows you to use the money however you want to. It covers heart attacks and strokes on top of that. So you can use it for all those things that we talked about, those copays, the prescriptions, the rehabilitation, any type of equipment that you need to retrofit your home to live more comfortably, that type of thing, the transportation cost, any type of cost of care, reimbursing your son or daughter for their time off, paying for housing expenses, rent, things of that nature. We've even had some individuals that unfortunately they get diagnosed stage 4 very late, not anything that can be done. They'll use it for kind of a bucket list trip, take the family, stuff like that. Totally unrelated expenses. It does not matter. You can use it any way you want to. It's totally tax-free. It pays you regardless of any type of medical or Medicare insurance that you have. And it's very broad, meaning that it's not like a treatment plan that you may have had through the school. It pays regardless. Once you get diagnosed with cancer, it pays you, not even if you've even started your treatments that way as well. The one thing that I like about this plan, not only is it customizable, you can build your benefits, you can start small and build up over a period of time. It covers not only cancer, heart attack, stroke, it covers other dread diseases like Parkinson's, things like that. You can add different levels of accident coverage. MJ's been on some of these calls where she's talked about members of WREA that have had slips and falls and needed coverage for accidents, things like that. You can put that on there. You can put on there a hospital plan that can pay for hospitalization as well. But the biggest and most important thing out here, because cancer has a recurrence rate of anywhere from 5 to 100%, you can add a recurrence benefit rider. And let me kind of tell you how this works, because this happened to my wife's cousin several years ago. She was 39, went in on an off-year mammogram because her mother passed away from cancer. Found a small spot on her breast, stage 0, they called it. She went and had some targeted radiation. Everything was fine. 12 years later, last year, she goes back in for a mammogram. It has come back with much more greater, for lack of a better term, just much more vengeful return of her breast cancer. And she had to have significant surgery, things like that. With this type of plan, you have your initial diagnosis, cancer comes up, then you can go 2, 5, 10 years or more without it recurring, and your benefit rebuilds so that if it does come back, you get double the benefit back, or up to 100% of your plan there. So gives you peace of mind knowing that you have that ability to recover those needs there if you have a question. So are there any questions out there? What I want to do, we've talked a little rather rapidly about the need. We've talked about what your endorsed option is from WREA. We've kind of talked about what is and isn't covered by Medicare, your private care plans. If you've got questions, feel free to drop it into chat. Feel free to raise your hand on the reaction bar. We can answer those questions that way. You can always email me if you join me on your iPad, something like that, at jon.green@amba.info. You can take your smartphone and hover over that QR code. I'm going to show you in a moment how that works. Once you open up your camera feature and hover over that QR code, a little form will pop up. And here's what it looks like. When you hover there at QR code, it's going to pop up. It'll say website QR code, open amba.info. Press your finger on that. This little form will pop up. You can select, I want to review, I want to talk about cancer, heart, and stroke. Scroll down, put your Wisconsin Retired Educators Association in the association, fill out your information, hit send, and it will come back to me within 5 minutes. MJ and her team will give you a shout right away to take care of that if you've got questions that way. So again, I'll show you that QR code in just a moment. Just a quick reminder, we've got the new second quarter calendar out there coming on May 4th. we're going to talk all about financial wellness. We're going to touch on a lot of the different changes that took place this year and kind of walk through some exercises, show you some tools, ways to get your financial house in order and prepare for the next several years of living as well. Then, as we just thinking about summer's coming up, Memorial Day, that kind of stuff, we're going to talk about the latest discounts and benefits all through the Passport program. We'll walk you through how to get signed up. We'll give you tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff and all the latest discounts that way. Come back in June with the basics of long-term care, our most popular webinar. And then on June 22nd, we're going to try something new. We want you to tell your soon to retire friends, those teachers that are still in the classroom that are thinking about retiring in the next few years, join us on the Wisconsin Pre-Retirement Seminar. We're going to do two things. Diane's going to walk through the nuts and bolts of the retirement plan, walk through everything that they can expect, and then we're going to kind of give them what they may not expect. We're going to tell them everything that you who have already retired wish that you would have known before you left the schoolhouse. So we're going to do a kind of a twofold presentation. I'd encourage you, invite your soon to retire friends. It's a great way to introduce them to WREA. We can only grow our voice stronger whenever we're talking with representatives, when we're at the state capitol, talking about issues, COLAs, things like that that are important to us, if we have more new members join us. So tell your currently working teachers about this webinar on the 22nd, get them enrolled, get them involved, and get them a taste of the WREA education and services and benefits that WREA provides on their behalf. So I will wrap this up again, reminding you, tell your friends about these webinars, take the recordings, send the links out to them, send them to the WREA website, discuss it with your family and friends as well. And I will leave this open here for any questions. I'll stop the recording right now.